like kids, right? They are like a growing young energy. So if you feed them cooling things, it's like you pour water onto the fire.
Yeah. Hello everyone and welcome back to an episode of
Huat The Health,
a series about all things health from the perspective of TCM physicians in Singapore. So today we have a very special guest with us. She's a certified TCM traditional Chinese medicine dietitian in Singapore and also the founder of Food Root TCM. So welcome to the show, Shanika.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so Shanika is a TCM dietitian.
Yeah.
Right? So even as a physician, I seldom hear of anyone having this title.
Yeah.
So maybe you can share a little bit more about what made you decide to pursue this unusual
Course.
path.
Yeah. I think this path actually started with my interest in TCM. But I know that I don't have the calling to be a TCM physician. I think that's a very...
you know you don't have a calling?
I think that's a very noble thing to do. I think it started when I stayed in China for around a year. And I see how people incorporate TCM food principles or like therapies in their life and how this become ingrained in their daily livelihood. I think that is a very special thing that what Singaporeans don't lack. I think we are very one-minded in a way that we only have things like herbal tea, cooling tea, and that's it. And the rest got mixed up with a bit of like grandma's tales, old wife tales. And I feel that there needs to be more understanding and more education in terms of this. So I think that also got me interested in this field. So when I stepped into... when I wanted to know more, and then I found out there's this course by Singapore College of TCM. So I thought, maybe I should go and get myself certified before I start telling people things. I think that's how it all started. Yeah.
What was the course like? Because you're the first person that I know that actually went through this whole course.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if anyone else has, but it seems to me like it's a very small course that not many people know about. So maybe you can tell more people about like what the whole thing's about.
Yeah, sure. It's actually a very niche course. The way that it was structured, right, it's actually for the graduates to actually start their own food business. So I think the founder of Lao Huo Tang is a very established food business in Singapore that they do like soup dishes.
Herbal soup.
Yeah, herbal soup. So the founder actually graduated from the same course.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
and how long has this course been going on for?
I think for at least a decade. Quite long
so it's
already.
been quite long.
Yeah,
already.
yeah,
Okay.
correct. So most of them are like retirees that wants to, like take care of their health or take care of their family. But part of them also comes out to be business owners. Yeah, so the way that it was structured, actually, I divided the modules into 3 parts. The first part actually is more on TCM principles. So like whatever the physicians learn, like your 阴阳学 or like your 五行学, I think all this we also learn. And so we also learn about like diagnostics. So 诊断学, like 方剂学, 中药学, like medicine or like prescriptions, like 方剂学 is called prescriptions. Yeah, so all this we learn. So this is, it forms like one major part of our course. And then the second part we learn about the food. So we deep dive into the different food parts and how the whole food therapy works in TCM theory. Then the last part, we will have a smaller portion where we actually do like, what is like certain food regulations in Singapore. And also how we do like cleanliness, including a course that we need to take I think there's this... What's that certificate called? It's actually a certificate that makes you licensed to run a food business in Singapore. Yeah, it's like the hygiene kind of certificate. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So we also need to take that. Yeah.
So you have to take as part of the course.
It's part of the course,
okay.
But there's additional ones. So I didn't actually go for the additional one because I didn't want to operate a food business yet. So I didn't choose to go for that. So I only went for the basic exam that we needed to take for the course. Yeah. Then actually there's a 3+1. So the last part actually requires us to go to Yangzhou to actually learn from chefs how to actually make all the different 药膳. Yeah, which is the food.
Also, you have
herbal
like an internship
Yes, correct.
or exchange
Internship.
program also.
Correct. I think that is also something that differs from what Western nutrition courses usually have, because we are very hands-on. Including the second part that we learn about the different food therapy, we actually have like practical lessons that we actually needed to cook in the class. Yeah, so I think that's something that is very unique to this course lah. Yeah.
So you mentioned Western food therapy or food dietitians, right? What would you say is like some of the differences between yourself and a Western medicine dietitian?
I get asked that quite often lah. What's the main difference? I would say that it differs on two sides. How I see it lah. One is on the mechanics and the approach, and also the second part on how or what we view as balanced. I think Western dietitians, if from my own understanding, they also emphasize on having a balanced diet. But in TCM, the way we see balance is a bit different from how they see it. So mainly these two, I would say. So in TCM, what we see is a holistic approach. So how we see as balance, it can come in the form of yin and yang, balancing by these two. And TCM food therapy is quite guided by TCM principles. So like how the course is being structured, the first part, they always teach us on how the whole TCM works. Like why is it like overlapping with TCM, what TCM physicians learn is because we are very interlinked to each other. Yeah, we don't...
The foundation is still TCM based lah.
Yeah, correct. The foundation is still there. So we will learn that first. So it's very guided. Whichever part that we come in or whatever advice that we give, we also must rely back on what the TCM physician advise the patients, or like very much, or if on the basic level, what we observe or what we learn. Yeah. Then from Western side, the mechanics they use is mainly like nutrition based. So they have macronutrition or like micronutrition. So it's a bit different from how we actually see our food lah. So for TCM, we see the food based on the TCM taste, the TCM nature. We have the cold, the hot, and the degree of it as well, and also like which organ it targets. So I think that is something very unique to TCM food therapy. Yeah.
So from my understanding, Western medicine is also based on science lah.
Correct.
As
it's
we
very
all know, right? So what do you think is the importance of either of these? Do you think that TCM nutrition is important? As important, more important, less important, or how do you feel in terms of the weightage? Because in Singapore's context, no one really uses TCM nutrition.
Yeah.
Currently, there is a very lack of education and lack of understanding in this field generally, from my understanding. So how important do you think it is for this aspect to be incorporated into our healthcare system?
I think I agree to a certain extent because in Singapore itself, actually, as compared to other countries, we do come into contact with TCM food therapy more than we understand. So including things like, getting like herbal tea from Huat, that's already a form of TCM food therapy. Or like thinking like, I'm getting heat tea, I'm getting ulcer. I think heat tea is a concept that every Singaporean will definitely hear about. And heat tea term, this term itself is not recorded in any Western like dietetics that I know of lah. Yeah, and to say that TCM we don't have scientific evidence, I think that is something that we are lacking in, definitely. It's something that we need to work on. But what TCM has is all like recorded books. So what we actually learn and what we base on is actually what is being recorded for ages that has been passed down. So including this book that we have over here, it's called Shan. It's actually by this first, I'll say, a food therapist called Hui. Yeah, so he is actually a Chinese court therapist and dietitian during the Yuan dynasty. So it's actually one of the first books that was actually one of the more completed food therapy book that is being passed down for many, many, many years. So I think TCM has a very strong foundation, but it's just that we don't have a tool to actually translate it into something that modern people can accept. And by that is more like scientific evidence. So of course there's more space for TCM therapy to move through. I wouldn't say that it's a definite like it's better. I would say it's actually something that is complementary. if we are, I don't see that it's actually clashing. It might in certain areas, but I think it's worth researching on and also seeing how exactly it can complement each other, or in a sense, if it contradicts, what is the contradicting point and how people can actually avoid it. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So I mean the course, how long was the course?
2 years.
Or 2 years. Is it a part-time course?
Part-time course.
Part-time
yeah,
course,
part-time
okay.
course.
So yeah, you mentioned just now you learn about TCM concepts, you learn about how food is understood from a TCM perspective, right? So maybe you can share some of the things that you've learned, or some of the concepts that you think are important for even everyday people to understand. Maybe some simple things that people might misunderstood, or things like, for example, the concept of heatiness. Was there any particular thing that you saw was very interesting that you picked up in this whole course?
I would say the part about heatiness is in Singapore, right? People always have this conception that, the weather is hot, so you must drink like cooling herbal tea. But that isn't the case lah. Because in TCM, what we talk about is very individualistic. It depends on your own body constitution and how your own health condition is like. For example, if you are someone that is already like yang deficient in nature, and then you drink a lot of cooling tea to make it worse, then actually by drinking cooling tea, it doesn't make you feel better. Like in the long run, it might actually cause your menstruation to mess up or cause cramps. I think this is quite common in Singapore, especially people drink a lot of cooling herbal tea and even cold icy drinks. I think that is a misconception about what is cooling and what's hot. Yeah. Even I'm also a victim about this, because when I was younger, my grandma also every time the weather is hot, then she will brew those very black kind of herbal tea. Usually she put honeysuckle, monk fruit, all those very, very cooling kind of
very
herbs.
liang.
Very, very liang, very liang. So I think that actually badly affected my menstruation when I actually grew up. I think it's quite messy. So that is something that I had to take a very long time to actually recover from it. Yeah.
I have a similar experience also. So I mean, there are levels to it also, but I think what Shanika mentioned about the fact that it's very individualistic, I think that's if there's anything to summarize the whole concept of TCM and food therapy, I would say that she hit the nail on the head lah, in that sense that TCM is not a one size fit all, right? You might give the same pill to someone who might have similar symptoms, but you might have very different results. Someone might recover, someone might get worse. Yeah, and so the end of the day, we always talk about this concept of body constitution, right? We must make sure that whatever we are providing for the individual is suited for him or her lah. And that's why you went through the whole course of diagnostics and understanding the concepts. Yeah. So even within that, there are levels to it. So for example, last time when we were young, I'm not sure if you had this experience. When you got fever, your parents always give you 羚羊角.
Yes, I have also.
羚羊角, yeah. So 羚羊角 is a very good 清热解毒 herb, but it's very, very strong.
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of times when you have a kid, that normally for young children they're a bit weaker.
Yes.
So if you keep giving them these kind of very liang kind of herbs, very cooling herbs, it affects their digestive system. It also affects their growth to a certain extent. Right?
Yep.
So over time, it's not good lah. And these are herbs that we only use in very extreme cases of high fever or whatnot. So even within cooling and heatiness, there are levels to it in terms of the herbs that we use, right?
Yeah.
So it's important to understand what you're taking, right? And not just everything 两滴, right?
Correct. Yeah, so cooling, like what I said, even for cooling herb, there's cooling herbs, but in the food spectrum, there's also the super cooling type,西瓜, watermelon is considered Han. So Han is considered cold, which is like a very end spectrum of it. I think in when we learn about watermelon, right? I think it's called the natural 白虎汤. It's actually considered a herb, in the olden days when they didn't have a lot of herbs available. The normal commoners will use 西瓜 to replace the function of 白虎汤. So that's why usually I would advise people around me, if you don't have very, very heaty symptoms, or you don't have if the heat doesn't give you any negative symptoms, then you don't anyhow take this kind of super cooling things lah. Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, 白虎汤 is a TCM formula. We use it for they call it 四大 lah. 大热, 大汗, 大渴. Basically, if you have very, very heaty symptoms, you use it. Yeah, so in the past, they use watermelon. We got learn also lah.
Yeah.
So, so we talked about a bit about how your course was like. Is there anything that you learn in terms of what do you think TCM food therapy can be used for in terms of certain conditions or certain problems in respect to the climate or the people in Singapore in particular? What are the kind of conditions that you think that food therapy is very suitable to be used as a way to sort of help to manage some of these symptoms or problems that people usually experience?
I would say in Singapore, our climate is quite straightforward. Like not like other countries, we don't have 4 seasons. We only have hot and humid seasons, rainy season, and also like drier symptoms when there's no rain. So it usually revolves around the heaty kind of symptoms. So I would say in Singapore, it's quite straightforward. Either you clear heat, or you maintain, or you remove dampness. These are the 3 more common food therapy that we use. But of course, because like what we said earlier, like different people have different body constitution. So when we use these 3 methods, right, we also need to consider like what is your own condition. Like, so for example, if you have certain like organ that is weak or like not functioning well, then you have to see how to actually go about it. Like you cannot use, if you have heaty symptoms, but at the same time your body constitution doesn't allow you to take cooling foods. Then how do we need to go around it to resolve? Yeah, so I think that is the trickier part when it comes to TCM food therapy. That usually you have to work side by side with a physician. If the person is not sick or not willing to go to a physician, then you have to see how to use like food to actually approach their symptom. Yeah, so usually that is how I look at it for Singapore case. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very common now. We call it is you learn in a textbook is like that, but when you see people in real life, everybody is like very messy one.
Yeah.
Because not only weather, then we got aircon, then you sleep late, all this, right? So it accumulates different problems. Some problems is too much, some problems are too little, right?
Correct. Yeah. So even like cough, I have like friends that come in to ask me, like, if I got cough, then what should I eat? Or like if I got headache, what should I eat? So sometimes it's not so straightforward. It's like cough, you have different kind of cough, right? You have cough with phlegm, you have cough without phlegm. And then even if you have phlegm, got different color. I think the most complicated one is you ask, whether you got green phlegm, clear phlegm, then usually they'll tell you, I have both. Then this one is the hardest one because usually you will say like, if you have green or yellow phlegm, then it's heatiness. But if it's white or clear, then it's actually a cold cough. So you use different kind of foods to actually help. But if you kind of tell me, I got both, then this one is a case that so far it's a bit hard to resolve. If I see complicated such cases, I would say I think it's better that you visit a TCM physician. Yeah, because if it's not so straightforward, food is actually something that takes a longer time to actually take effect. Other than like very extreme food like watermelon, that kind is like a bit stronger. But if you want to see effect, I think herbs will take a longer time. Food will take a longer time, than like just using herbs. So if it's complicated, usually I think you should just see a physician. Yeah.
Alright, since you mentioned the 3 body types, heatiness, dampness, and what's that?
Damp heat, and one is neutral.
Neutral, okay. Okay, so maybe you explain a bit, maybe you can explain a bit like what are the symptoms. So a lot of people have these symptoms, what can they look out for? And then if they do have such symptoms, what kind of foods can they take to help alleviate their symptoms?
You mean like if you have different body constitution, what are the foods?
So the common ones you mentioned is heatiness and dampness, which I agree is very common, right? So if let's say someone has either of these, how do they know first and foremost if they have? And then what kind of foods can they take to help if in the case that they don't feel like it's serious enough to see a doctor, right?
Okay, got you. Yeah. Okay, so I think previously I did a post before. So I did the foods recommended for the 9 type of body constitution. So I previously mentioned there's this one called the damp heat. So damp heat, I usually brand it or like these people are usually acne troubled. Not all, but it's quite common to see people with this constitution struggling with acne. So usually what are the common symptoms other than acne? These people have like they feel bloated easily, or like they have like sticky stools. I think these are quite common, commonly seen in Singapore, especially when our weather is very dry, a very humid place lah. So these people, the foods that we recommend is actually like pearl barley. I think this is one of the foods that I think is very useful. Like Chinese pearl barley. I think there's a difference between Chinese pearl barley and the normal Western pearl barley lah. Yeah, so for this one, I would recommend for people with damp heat constitution. But if you have young constitution, in TCM therapy, we also learn things about processing your ingredients so that you change the nature of it. So for pearl barley itself, right, it's something that is more cold. Like more cooling in nature. But people like for kids, I would recommend actually to stir fry it a bit. You can just put over the stove and then you just fry it until it's a bit like roasted. Then you cook it with water. So it actually helps to reduce the cooling effect of this ingredient. Yeah. So usually for kids, I'll recommend to actually stir fry it a little bit. Yeah. So that is for damp heat. So other foods are like cucumber, winter melon, celery, watermelon is also considered lah. Yeah, and then also like water spinach, water chestnut. So all these are a little more like more cooling. Yeah, it's more cooling foods to help to remove the dampness in your body as well lah. Yeah, usually by promoting urination. That's one way to get rid of the excess water in your body lah. Yeah, so that's for damp heat. Then the next one we have is... So that's damp heat. Actually, these two is together.
They're quite related.
Usually like
so you
together.
can use the herbs or the foods that you mentioned for both situations.
Yes, for both, yeah.
Because in Singapore, actually quite common to have both together.
Yeah.
Then what if, let's say, you have a weaker body constitution, right? Because that is quite common also. As physicians, we see people with weak body constitution. So what are the kind of common foods? The 补药 lah, we call it. What are the kind of 补药 that you would recommend people to take, and what kind of symptoms or conditions would require you to take these different types of herbs?
Okay, I feel like for the weaker kinds, right, it means like usually it's the deficiency kind of constitution. So it depends on what kind of deficiency you have. So you have your qi deficiency, your yin deficiency, and your yang deficiency. I think these are the three more common ones also. Maybe I should talk about yin deficiency, because I observe that in quite a lot of my friends lah. Because most of them tend to sleep late.
Yeah, right. Sleep late.
Yeah. So sleep late is a very common thing. So usually for friends that sleep late, I will usually ask them a question like, do you feel thirsty all the time? Most of the time, right, they'll tell me, yeah, how you know? Yeah, and these people are people that no matter how much water they drink, they'll still tell you that I always very thirsty. Yeah, whereas for people like me, right, I can whole day I don't drink like water. Yeah, I still feel fine. Yeah, so that actually shows like, actually people have different body constitution. Yeah, that's also one part of it. So for yin deficiency, why you drink so much water, you still don't get moisturized because you are not replenishing things that you are lacking in, which is the yin portion of it. Yeah, so things we always talk about like how to replenish back your yin. You can like things like honey, things like sesame seeds, things like white fungus. These are foods that are more yin nourishing. If you eat for a prolonged period of time, you realize that actually it's more effective than just drinking water itself. Yeah.
So like make a dessert or make like a tea with
correct.
those ingredients.
Yeah, so that's why food therapy is interesting because it comes in different format. It's not like you just have one ingredient, but how you play around with the different ingredients. Yeah. So that's pretty much for yin deficiency. So for other kind of deficiencies, also have different ways to actually tackle it. Yeah.
Another common one I think is qi deficiency. I think maybe you can talk about it a bit because nowadays people either don't sleep enough or they work a lot. Then or they exercise a lot. A lot of people are not very into exercising. They exercise too much. Then they feel very lethargic, low energy. What are types of foods they can take in such a situation?
I would say, okay, this one, right, very typically people will just go straight to ginseng. But I wouldn't recommend for ginseng because it's very strong. So you really, unless you like just recover from surgery, then maybe you are in a very extreme tea deficiency situation. Then maybe you can use like appropriate amount of ginseng. But if you are like normally you want to like strengthen yourself, I would say go from the milder side to replenish what we call the spleen qi first. We always say in TCM food therapy, right? 你要养胃 because 你的胃是你的后天之本. Means it's something like well, let me translate it. It's like your spleen is something that you can strengthen it after you are born.
Something that you can control.
Yeah, something you can control.
It's not given to you. It's something that you can sort of
correct.
manage on your own.
Because we always say kidney is 你的先天, then your 脾胃 is your 后天. So kidney is something that is your essence depletes over time. That's why your hair, everything will like grey over as you age. But spleen is something that when you're born, you are what you eat. Is actually it comes from this part lah. That when you eat properly, that you strengthen up your spleen, which is equivalent to the Western digestive system. If you eat well, then actually all the qi and your essential essence will actually get built up over time. Yeah, so I think for TCM food therapy, like to 补气, right, I always like to recommend Chinese yam. Because Chinese yam is like the mildest and it doesn't really have much side effect. So I'll usually recommend to even kids, even like elderly, it's also like should eat more of that lah, quite often. Yeah, so Chinese yam is one. Even red dates, I think usually you can just put in your drink if you are not heaty lah. So red dates actually, if you drink it over a long period of time, it's actually quite raw because it's high in sugar content. Yeah, so Chinese yam is the neutral one, so it's actually good for long term. We also have things like mushroom. I think mushroom is something that I actually learned from my course. That's actually a very good ingredient to actually boost your spleen. Yeah. And it doesn't have much side effect also. So if you eat a lot of mushroom, it's not like you're going to gain a lot of weight, that kind. So usually Chinese yam, mushroom, I always try to recommend more for these two types. Yeah.
Yeah, that's provided you can take lah. I know there are some people that have doctors tell them that they cannot take certain types of foods lah.
Yeah. But Chinese yam usually we don't have a lot of occurrence that they are allergic to Chinese yam lah. Yeah. So these two are quite safe, I would say. But mushroom itself is considered a fa wu, which I think is also what we're going to talk about today lah. So mushroom is something that if you just have like a surgery or you like inflammation, and then try not to take it. Yeah.
Fa wu is Chinese 的副段诱发病因的食物。
Yeah, so it's like foods that trigger,
stimulate
certain conditions
to occur. Yeah, okay, since you are talking about this, right, maybe then let's go into some of the commonly asked questions that we compiled.
Okay.
With regards to food, right? So the first one we should talk about is this thing about fa wu lah. So since you already answered the question, maybe you can elaborate. What other types of foods are included in this list of after surgery, or if you have certain skin conditions that you should try to avoid?
I think seafood is also one of the bigger things. Seafood, mutton, chicken also sometimes considered. So when we learn about the topic of fa wu, it's very interesting because it's not like if you eat this, you definitely will get a reaction. It's considered fa wu is because historically or like in clinical setting, a lot of people get reactions. So it's recorded as a fa wu because based on observations, that is what happened. So some people say, I eat, if I eat like prawn or I eat like crab, I don't get reaction. But that's because that's you. It's not just like, not everybody is like you. So some people will still get reactions or like get allergic reactions. So to be safe, we will just get people to avoid eating these foods. Yeah.
But actually, there's some science behind it also. I think that I saw some research about how egg white has certain components that a lot of people are allergic to.
Yeah.
And even if you're not allergic to that say that particular food. So recently I had this experience. So normally I'm not allergic to seafood one. I eat. But of course now I don't eat a lot. I eat a bit here and there. But that day I for some reason nobody wanted to eat the crab. So I eat a lot of crab. Then that night I started feeling very itchy, which never happened to me before. Right? So I know that it's because this crab is a fa'u to begin with, right? And even though you don't have a reaction to it, doesn't mean that it's not something that might trigger, right? Especially if you eat too much, or if you're more sensitive, then eat a bit, then it might trigger these kind of problems.
Yeah.
So when we say fa'u, these are foods that maybe not necessarily Western medicine say that you can. Even in fact, the doctor will tell you sometimes you can, after the surgery, you can eat seafood. It helps with your recovery. Right? I got here before. But in TCM, we say that we try to avoid.
Try to avoid. We are usually, TCM is usually on the safer side. Even when we do food therapy, one of our aim is for preventive care. We do things like we eat certain things so that we don't get ill. Or for example, if you are ill, we eat so that we don't get more ill. Yeah, so we are usually on the preventive safe side.
This concept we call 治胃病.
Yes, yeah.
治未来的病，不是治你的胃的病. So to treat the problem that has not come. So in the past they used to say that the best doctors don't treat the illness, they treat the illness before it comes.
Yes,
not when it has come already. They say if you just treat illness, you're not a good doctor. If you can prevent the illness, then you are the highest level of being a doctor.
Correct. Yeah. So I think that's the beauty of food also. Like because food is something that we eat daily. We don't eat medicine every day, but we definitely eat food every day. So that's why I think food therapy is something worth investing in. Because it's something that's going to bring us to for a long time. Yeah.
And as they're saying, 过吃药三分毒 there's always a level of toxicity with regards to herbs.
Yeah.
So why I like food therapy also is because the things that you use are very natural and they can be used as food also. Yeah. And they're not very strong in the sense that they have a herbal kind of intensity to them. Yeah, so there's not so much burden on the liver, the kidneys to process and metabolize these substances, and that's why, like what Shalika said, you can take it for long term and if it's suited for your body, it will bring your body into the right direction, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, next question is, coughing can eat chicken or not?
I think this one also quite common. I think when we were younger, for me, when I'm younger, my parents also tell me like, oh, 咳嗽不要吃鸡肉. But I would say it depends because you have to see the nature of chicken. Chicken itself is heaty. So it's not saying that you cannot eat chicken, but just so happen in Singapore, there's a lot of like cough that is heaty, like heaty cough. So if you are already having a heaty cough, if you take chicken, then it will further make it worse. So that is one scenario that you shouldn't eat chicken when you're having a cough. But however, if you are having a cold cough, you eat chicken, actually there's not much like negative effects. Yeah. So, but the thing is, because usually people cannot differentiate what kind of cough they're having. So we will usually just say, oh, if you got cough, then don't take chicken because that's on the safer side. Yeah. So I will say for my understanding of why we tell people don't eat chicken when you have cough is usually this. Even chicken skin and chicken meat itself, there's different effects. Yeah. So there's a saying that it's not the chicken, but it's the chicken skin that makes it worse. Yeah.
Interesting. Just don't eat lah.
Yeah.
Chicken rice don't eat 1 week, can Okay, next question. Okay, is it true that if you have back pain and you drink tea, it will make it worse? This one also last time the doctor tell me before. I sprained my ankle, then I treat finish it. He tell me, 回去不要喝茶.
Okay. This tea, right? Okay, wait. I have a. Okay, so for back pain, right? If I'm not wrong, so back pain, there's different kind of causes. So some is you like structural issue, like you have your spinal cord that is like not aligned, or you have things like you have kidney yin or yang deficiency. So there are different causes to your back pain. So that's why you cannot just and tea itself, there's different types of tea. There is we have like different. It depends on how it's being fermented, right? We have like the green tea, which is the least fermented. This one is the cooling one, and then you have all the way until the black tea, which is warming in nature.
Oh,
yeah. So tea
black
itself
tea is warming in itself.
Yes. So actually, tea itself, because the way it's being processed, it actually changes the nature of it.
I think they fry it, is it? Or they roast it.
They roast it. Yeah. So you have
back to the like why you roast the barley, the same lah.
Yes,
right?
yes, correct.
It changes the property.
Correct. So it changes the property of it. So for example, if your back pain is actually cold induced, or like what we say like your yang deficiency, then you go and drink green tea, which is cooling in nature. Then of course it will worsen the pain lah. Yeah, but if you drink like the warmer ones, then actually it's fine. It doesn't have a direct impact like, oh, you drink tea, it will worsen it. Yeah, so we just try to match the different nature of the food and your condition. So it's not like definitely cannot drink, but it depends on what type of tea that you are drinking lah. Yeah, because tea in Singapore is a very common concept that tea is cooling. Like because my nature, my own body constitution tend to be a bit more yang deficient. Then or like females, we also tend to say that 不要喝凉的, right? Because of our own the structural of females, like what they call it, like how females are being structured. So people like usually our family around, 不要喝凉的, 不要喝茶. But actually 茶 itself 分很多种. There's different types. Depends on what type of tea you drink. To actually what type of tea you drink, it actually makes it different lah. Like the different effects of it. Yeah.
Interesting. But I guess the reason why we say this to patients also because just to be on the safer side lah.
Yeah.
Because Chinese already saying 不痛则痛，痛则不痛啦. So any areas of pain, we always attribute it to poor circulation or some blockages, which if you take anything cooling, it will make it worse.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so we just want to make sure that you maximize your treatment efficacy by making sure that you don't do anything to sort of slow down your overall blood flow, which will cause not only back pain, but any general pain to worsen. Yeah. And having said that, I think that extends to other foods also, right? That is also cooling. Watermelon or...
Yeah, correct.
Right.
I think that stems also of like normal public, right? They are not very educated on the different types of food. So even like tea, that's why on the safer side, physician will just say don't drink tea. Because maybe public themselves, they don't know that there are different type of tea. Like I think when I posted, one of my more popular posts is actually the different type of tea and their benefits. When I posted this, I think a lot of people feel that, this is the first time.
I'll put it here.
Yeah. So usually people tell me that, they didn't know about this. So I think that was the post that I got the most number of interaction, number of saves and number of like share, because this is something... it's also a reason why I actually stepped into this field, to translate into like this kind of tips for people to understand. Like it's not that you cannot drink tea, but depends on what type of tea you're actually drinking. Yeah.
Okay, next question. This asked by someone also. Is there anything that is good for kids in terms of for their growth, for their development? What are some of the foods that parents can give to their young ones to help them grow better?
I would say for kids, right, I think just now we also touched on it, that they are weaker in general. And usually for food therapy, we target 2 organs, which is one is the lungs and the other one is their spleen. Lungs, because I think generally because it's still growing, it's like we always say 肺为焦脏, which is the weaker organs out of your entire 5 organs. And that applies to the same as for kids. So for kids, that's why they easily get like cough. Or like respiratory kind of issues, because
fever or considered
correct.
Also.
Yeah, so that's why for lungs we always try to you can get your child to eat more like white foods. This is like white fungus, or these are more like neutral related foods lah. And then for spleen, we always say like back to again like Chinese yam. If you can give your kids like Chinese yam, say if your kid can accept, I think try to incorporate into their diet as well. And one of the most important thing, right, is actually to avoid extreme cooling things. I think that is very damaging to their own digestive growth. I think there was once my cousin, because now it's the persimmon season, 柿子. Yeah, so actually 柿子, right, the raw ones is actually super cooling. It's like西瓜, that range one. Yeah, so that fruit itself, right? I saw my cousin feeding my baby nephew. I think there was only 1 year old. So I
raw,
saw
it means like the fresh
the
food
fresh
lah.
one. The
Yeah,
fresh one. The
maybe
fresh
that's
one is
kinda eat lah.
extremely cooling. 柿饼 is fine. The dried one, because dried one they went through the process of like
Yep.
drying, right? So it actually reduces the cooling nature of it. So I saw her feeding my baby nephew lah. Then I said, 这个不可以喂的嘞. But she said, never mind, it's just for him to try. But actually, I think he ate quite a lot, at least 3/4 of the fruit. And then I think one day later, he kena cough. Yeah, so it's a very bad cough lah. So it's not I'm not saying that all the kids will be like that, but it's actually a very good example to say that it affects them very strongly, especially because they are very vulnerable. So we'll try to avoid them to eat like super cooling things now. Unless you see them having like heaty symptoms, then having a small amount is fine. But don't just because the weather is hot, then I give them cooling foods to eat. I think have to be very selective lah. Yeah, and also like fried foods are also very damaging to the digestive system lah. Fried, raw, too spicy, extremely cooling. I think these 4 should avoid. Yeah. So and then the rest just maintain a balanced diet. I think that is actually a safe tip for parents to take note lah. Yeah.
It's now you see someone giving their kid iced lemon tea in the coffee shop or green tea.
Yeah.
Ice cream.
I think
Stop them.
Yeah, correct. In Singapore, I think it's quite common for
Very
them to
common,
drink
yeah.
cold drinks.
Cold drinks,
Yeah, please don't.
Iced tea. Iced tea.
Yeah. Please don't give your kids cold drinks. Yeah, because in Singapore, I know it's very hard. And if your kid cultivate this habit of drinking extremely cold or icy drinks, then it's very hard to quit. I think it also affects their growth, especially in this phase where they're actually growing their different, like they're growing their body, right? So it's not very useful. I'm not very helpful if you feed them like all this cooling things. Our teacher gave us a very good example. Like we say like 小孩子, right? Like kids, right? They are like a growing young energy. So if you feed them cooling things, it's like you pour water onto the fire. Yeah, because they are like a growing fire, right? Because they are growing. So in TCM, we say things that are growing are young in nature. So if they are growing, and then at the same time you're pouring water onto them, I think that is also like you can see it visually already that it's actually affecting their growth lah. Yeah.
If you touch kids, you realize a lot of them are very warm. Warmer than a lot of adults.
Yeah, correct.
So that's the reason.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, one last question. Someone asked, what type of foods can make you feel more at ease? So I'm guessing this is a reference to more of like mental health. Any foods that you can take to relieve stress or help you sleep better or you feel calmer? Are there any types of foods that you learn about that fall into this?
Of course, there are foods we call like the foods that help to 解郁. I use that a lot also. Yeah. But I would say foods to a certain extent. It help to a certain extent because after all, they're still food. Right? I think it only helps when you have it on a long period of time. You still have to identify what is your core, the thing that is making you stress. If you cannot solve that, I think no amount of food can help you. Yeah, but to answer that question, I think foods that help are like rose. I think rose is a very, very common thing that
桂花.
Yes, 玫瑰花. And usually I like to pair with 薄荷, mint.
Peppermint.
Yes, peppermint. So these two are a very good combi to actually help me to de-stress lah. Because when we say in TCM that you are stressed, right, 你很郁 means things get stuck. So these two herbs actually help to move things around, move your qi around, to make you less stagnant. Yeah, so these two are my favorite lah. But of course, there are other things that will also help. I think like cherries also does help. Then there's one that I also drink, red wine. Red wine actually does help to a certain extent. Yeah, because when you drink it, right, you can feel that actually your blood is circulating. I think that's the most direct effect that you feel but please drink in moderation. Yeah. So usually I will just like once in every few days I'll drink like a cup. If I really very, very stressed, I'll drink red wine. And red wine is the only alcohol that I drink. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that's all some of the commonly asked questions. Recently you also mentioned that you went to China, right? To just have a holiday. Is there anything that you saw there that was interesting in terms of the application of food therapy? Because I think in Singapore, what we understand is restricted to individual herbs.
Yeah.
I take barley is for this. I take chrysanthemum is for this, right? Yeah, but in terms of the application of food therapy, what are some interesting things that you have seen, or what are some examples of food therapy that you've come across that maybe people don't know that it's actually food therapy, but it actually is? Or what are some of the other areas that we can improve on this field?
I would say there are actually two types. So remember just now I mentioned about Singapore having like herbal tea. I think every time think of like in Singapore we think about herbal tea, we think about those traditional kind of shops. But actually what I observe in China is there's this rising trend about incorporating TCM herbs into bubble tea. And by that is like a modern kind of concept. I actually went to this store that I really, really liked the concept. So they actually divided their menu into two separate ones. So one, they had like modern kind of like iced blended kind of drinks that is obviously not very TCM lah. They
for enjoyment,
yeah, it's more for enjoyment. So they actually incorporate like herbal things into it. So it's like herbal flavored. But the second part is the real TCM one. So what they actually do is they boil real raw herbs for different functions. So they have one for like 补气, so to help you to be more energetic. Then there's one to help you remove dampness. If I'm not wrong, there's another one that help you to replenish blood, for example. So there are like really different kind of formula for different functions, and they really use like real herbs. Of course, it doesn't taste as nice as the first part that is more modern, right? But I feel that the whole concept makes it less traditional, and it's easier for younger people to accept and actually enjoy a drink that actually brings health benefits to them as well. Yeah, that is one of the more interesting concepts that I actually see in China. And another one is actually interesting product formats. So things like, I think 芝麻丸 has been quite like a black sesame ball. It's been quite famous in China. So they actually feed them to kids as well. So we call like the 五黑 also. So the 5 blacks, which is, because in TCM we say 5, the black enters your kidney. So this 5 black, right, usually like elderly, suitable for elderly, like children, they can take, because it's very mild. Yeah, so 5 black include like black beans, you have your black rice, and then of course your black sesame, and etc. So this product format is very easy to eat. And that's why I think in recent years it has been quite popular. I think even 世家客 has quite a few. Yeah, I buy them myself also. Yeah.
But I guess from what you're saying is there are a lot of ways that we can make it more relevant.
Correct.
Right, yeah. Because I agree with you lah. In Singapore, TCM, even though it's more accessible, it's still quite boring lah.
Yes.
That's a product format, right?
Correct.
A lot of the products nowadays are very much geared towards the elderly also. From what I understand lah.
Yeah.
A lot of 补品,
correct.
a lot of nourishing things. But actually TCM is not all about 补, right? We
correct.
also have a lot of things like 清热 or these, which like for example distress, for better sleep.
Correct.
Which even young adults, even kids can use also.
Yeah, correct.
So I think that's something that maybe we'll see more of, and maybe you'll do something next time.
Yep.
For us to
yeah, I hope. Yeah. And also I think famous like more elderly use TCM, right? Is because they already see problem in their body. That's why they start to look out for ways to address the problem, which most of the time is already very late already. Yeah, so really advise more young people to actually to start, maybe be more receptive. Like we might not be scientific, but we are definitely reliable. We have like cases, or like we call like 临床, right? What we call 临床, like practical clinical settings that forms the basis of TCM. So I would just say to advise more people to be more receptive to TCM lah, instead of just saying that it's just old wives' tale. I think be more receptive. I think that's something that maybe might benefit you as well. Yeah. And
I think the first step to being more receptive is to learn more about it lah. Yeah. So I think one way to learn about it is you can follow her. Food Root TCM. She shares very, very good stuff about the different properties of different types of foods lah. So if you're interested for yourself, for your family, I think this is a good place to start. get familiar with some of the common conditions, some of the common food properties. And then once you know, then when you have that kind of experience yourself or with people around you, then you can recall and say, hey, I heard of this food that can help with this problem. That's when you start to use. And then when you use, you feel better, then you realize that, hey,
actually it works.
It works, yeah. So that's I think how you get started lah. Because it's very abstract, right? Like how am I going to know that this problem is going to solve this, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so I guess what Shanika is doing with her platform is very good lah. And it makes it a lot very accessible. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's all the questions we have for Shanika today. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Nope. Thanks for having me.
Okay.
Yeah, and please follow the TCM folks. I think they really give a lot of different product content formats that is more accessible also for like different for the younger people lah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Shanika.
Yep.
We wish you all the best. And please follow her. Hopefully we have more opportunities to have conversations like this next time lah.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.